All right, let's talk about work-life balance. So when I was an undergrad, especially when I was a freshman and sophomore, work-life balance was just starting to become a buzzword, and it's something that's become closely associated with millennials and most likely into Generation Z as they start going into the workforce. And all it was really taught to me as was this concept that instead of working 60 hours a week at my job, I could work 45 hours a week at my job and then have 15 hours to do whatever else I wanted to do. Something that, could make my life more meaningful, or if I have a family, I can obviously spend more time with them. And honestly, this whole concept of working fewer hours so you have more time to spend doing other things, I think this is a reductionist view of what work-life balance is really getting towards. And what that is a way of managing your mental health while working at least 40 hours per week, every week for your 30 to 40 year career. So to start, let's examine how most undergrads, I think, treat their undergraduate career. So you start in September, boom, it's off to the races. You're going. It's just a sprint to the finish line until you reach finals in December. And then you can pass out for a month when you get to Christmas or your winter break. And even if you're working part-time or full-time during this break, it is such a difference in kind that it still allows your brain to reset. A lot of this tends to be more physical, so this tends to burn off a lot of the stress. And let's face it, you're young. When you're 19, when you're 20, you can work crazy, insane hours a lot better than you can when you're 30, when you're 40, when you're 50. So you get to January and it's off to the races again. It's go until you hit the summer. So if you're doing summer research, then again, it's a complete difference in kind, but things do tend to slow down a bit. I don't see as many students working 50, 60-hour weeks in the lab during summer research. It tends to be around 40 to 45. So what I'm getting at here is that undergraduates tend to treat their entire education like a sprint. And let's face it, a lot of this stuff is thrown at you very rapidly. You have a very short amount of time to get a baseline level of competence in a variety of different subject areas that you could probably study for a year or two by themselves to really get a good view of that. And the idea is that you get enough knowledge that whenever you do go on to your next job or do go into grad school, you've got at least a baseline knowledge of this that you can then build off of. And that makes the undergrad education a bit more efficient. So if I needed to give you a metaphor on this, and I have my visual aid here, I would use this candle, where this candle represents your physical energy. And as the candle gets lower and lower and lower, your batteries are running progressively low as you've been doing this breakneck pace. You might need to skip your classes for an afternoon or spend an entire weekend just chilling out instead of studying. And again, you can get away with this because you're young and you bounce back relatively easily. So what usually happens is you graduate, you enter that first job, and you're still following this breakneck pace as you start this new job, because that's what you know. I mean, that's what I did. That's what a number of other people did. And what you find is that you say you start your job in September, you go through in December, you're tired, you're exhausted, but you're still going. And then you keep going, say January through May, and by the end of that, you're like physically you're running yourself down to the limits, but emotionally you're also playing a huge toll on yourself. You might notice that there's some psychological effects that weren't there before as an undergrad that are there now. You might find your motivation has been significantly impacted. You may not be sleeping as well. You might be feeling anxious or depressed, and you'd never had that happen before. Or you liked your job, but now you don't seem to like it very much. You don't really enjoy going into work anymore. You're thinking of switching careers or switching jobs because this one just isn't doing it for you anymore. So this is where as your career, I mentioned this 30 to 40 year part of your career, functionally what you're doing is running a 30 to 40 year ultra marathon by sprinting. And that is not a sustainable pace. So really, if we return back to this candle metaphor, the reality is that your candle has two ends. One side is that physical energy, the other side is more of an emotional energy. And there's this spot in the middle. So if your physical end reaches the spot in the middle, then you gotta take a break, you gotta take a nap, you might get sick. But if this emotional aspect gets to the end, you might be feeling totally fine sitting at your desk, but you're just staring at your computer screen. Nothing's really happening. This is what people really mean when they're talking about burnout. It is an emotional exhaustion. It is, in every way, an unhealthy mental state. And there are some very simple ways that you can manage this. I'm going to give you 4 steps on them right now, but it's something that a lot of us wind up learning the hard way. So I'm not expecting that somebody watch this video and go, okay, Jimmy, I agree with you on all of this. I'm going to do this and everything's going to be fine. No, you're going to find out the hard way, because nobody's perfect in managing these things. And when I start to feel burnt out, or when I go through burnout cycles, it's usually because one of these things has lapsed. So I will give you my 4 steps of work-life balance. You ready? Step number 1, sleep 7 to 9 hours per night. Number 2, eat 3 meals a day. Number 3, exercise 3 to 5 times a week. And number 4, participate in 1 to 2 hobbies. Now, let's go back and review that a bit. So sleeping 7 to 9 hours a night. Some people insist that they're totally okay sleeping 4 to 6 hours per night. Some people are built that way. Other people really aren't. So I would express caution if you think that's you. In terms of eating, of course you want to try to eat healthy, but in general, eating dine-in is better than eating fast food, and making your own meals is better than eating dine-in or dining in, and then making healthy meals for yourself is more important than just making junk food for yourself. In terms of working out, you can work out in whatever means you prefer. I went to a mental health seminar they had here at Trinity, and they described working out and producing those nice little hormones that you produce when you're working out as a nature's antidepressants, and really it annihilates stress like none other. And then finally, when it comes to hobbies, you want to try to diversify a little bit, in that you have one hobby you can do daily, a little bit each day, and then you have another one that might be weekly or bi-weekly. Now, preferably you want to save at least that one as something that you do with other people. This is also a means that you can use to get out and meet other people. But you don't just want to stay cooped up in your home unless that's what you want to do. Now, as I mentioned before, I've struggled with burnout many times, and when I go through those cycles, it's usually because my sleep schedule is out of whack. And I have to evaluate it. They're like, okay, that's where it's messed up. Recalibrate it, and you start to feel better. I mean, your motivation was dead a couple weeks ago, but I started getting 8 hours of sleep a night, and it's fine. I'm functioning. It's great. This is awesome. Now, that was not an exhaustive list. And as I mentioned in the initial video, ask 10 different people in the room. You'll get 5 to 8 different answers. If you are still struggling with your mental health and you're doing all of those things, get help. I mean, once you're out there in the working world, no one else is going to help you except yourself. And if you're doing everything you can to take care of yourself and it's just not working, that's a sign that you need to see your doctor, start visiting a therapist or a psychiatrist. You may need to be on medication. Get it evaluated. Because once it spirals beyond your ability to control it, it is only going to get worse until you do something about it. Now, as I said, I thought this is one of the more important videos, because as opposed to having a career-oriented video where I'm talking about things you could do to improve your career or get ahead in your career, or at least set yourself ahead of the curve in terms of getting a job, this one is more advice on how to live with yourself. And it's just, it's just you when it all comes down to it. So I wish you luck in the future in managing all of this and finding other parts, addenda that you can make to a list like that, or things you can take out and put back in that you think work better for you. Everybody's different, so find what works for you and stick with it.